welcome to Imagination Fun Time. I am your host, Brandon Devine. Hello, how are you folks? I hope you're all doing well this week, this month. It is officially September. Billy Joe Armstrong of Green Day has gone to sleep once again for the whole month of September. And today I'm very excited to be doing this podcast. This has been a podcast. This has been an episode I've been waiting to do for a while. It's an idea I had early on the podcast of one of the movies I wanted to talk about because this is a movie that is a personal favorite of mine. In honor of this movie, I decided that throughout the podcast, I am going to be doing multiple bong rips to keep with the theme of the podcast, which is heavily relying on drugs. Speaking of which, hold on one second. Oh, man. As the old saying goes, if you don't cough, you don't get off. And if any of you are listening right now, and any of you are fucking stupid pussies and thinking, oh, Brandon, are you smoking pot right now? Are you allowed to be smoking pot in Arkansas? I do have a medical marijuana card, and I get all my pot legally actually over in the state of Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a truly underrated pot state here in America. So amazing. If you've never watched the show Tulsa King, I highly recommend it. Let's see. Today is Saturday, September 2nd, 2023. It is about 9:39 p.m. Didn't go to work today because I didn't have to work today, which is nice. And I've kind of been prepping a lot for this podcast by just basically doing what I normally have done every day for about the past 12 years now, which is wake up, get stoned all day, and go to bed. But right now, I want to talk to you folks, you kind, amazing, beautiful folks of all different genders, all different races, all different ethnicities, some of you might possibly not even be from this planet. The government has been, telling us that aliens are real, and to me, I'm like, yeah, and we've all known this. But anyways, I'm deteriorating from what we were going to talk about. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my personal favorite movies, which is called Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. This legendary cult film is directed by the great Terry Gilliam, who, for those of you who don't know, is one of the legendary members of one of the most famous comedy groups in history, Monty Python. The movie is directed by Terry Gilliam. It is produced by Layla Nabaluzzi. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. Patrick Cassavetti and Stephen Namath. The screenplay is by Terry Gilliam, Tony Grisani, Todd Davis, and Alec Cox. Alec Cox is known for directing several films, including Sid and Nancy. And this movie is based on the book Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by legendary writer Hunter S Thompson. This movie is starring Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro. So, the plot of the movie is the epic weekend adventure of an American journalist and a Samoan attorney in 1971 Las Vegas. The journalist, Raoul Duke, is hired to write about the Mint 400 moto race, but the weekend turns into one of the most wild, hedonistic, drug-fueled adventures in the history of modern civilization. The two consume They're to consume an insanely wide variety. Sorry, I'm reading from my notes here. An insanely wide variety of drugs, ranging from regular drugs like alcohol and marijuana to harder drugs such as acid, mescaline, cocaine, to just what the fucking fuck style drugs such as huffing raw ether and adrenochrome, which should be noted is a real chemical compound but a fictional substance within the context of the film. The pair, Raoul Duke and the Samoan attorney, Dr. Gonzo, have several beyond crazy encounters throughout the film with various patrons of Las Vegas, both casino workers, gamblers, bartenders, tourists, cops, etc. At some point, one might wonder what is real and what all might be happening in the insane trip that these two are on. This movie is truly... It's so hard at times to describe this movie. A lot of people just describe it as one hour and a half long acid trip, which is honestly not the worst way to describe it. I mean, 2 hour long acid trip, which honestly is not the worst way to describe it, because it really is. So the background of this book is very interesting. The book's origins naturally lay within its legendary author, Hunter S Thompson. Hunter S Thompson is widely known for founding a... He was a... let's just state this. He was a writer starting in the early 1960s, reaching fame within America and the world in the 70s. He founded a style of journalism which is called gonzo journalism, which encompasses the author's reports on a story by making themselves the protagonists of the story and giving personal opinions and emotions while also reporting factually. So it's basically like a way of mixing both fiction and non-fiction together, which is just plain cool as fuck. Hunter S. Thompson started off as a journalist and rose to fame when he started to rise to fame in the late 60s when he wrote a book titled The Hell's Angels, Strange and Terrible Saga of the Outlaw Motorcycle Gangs, during which he rode with the gang for about a year and wrote and reported on their adventures. Let's see. He also had written articles for various other magazines during his time, such as New York Times magazines, Esquire, etc. It was in the year 1970, that Hunter S. Thompson founded the new style of journalism called gonzo. It started with an article that Hunter was hired to write about the 1970 Kentucky Derby for a publication called Scanlan's Monthly. The article turned out to be more about the atmosphere surrounding the event than the actual race itself. The article was published under the title "The Kentucky Derby is decadent and depraved." This incredibly strange article truly helped launch Hunter into the mindset of the American reading public. So in early 1971, starts the real background of this story. In early 1971, Hunter and his associate, a Chicano attorney by the name of Oscar Zeta Acosta, he was a novelist and a political activist, mostly associated with the Chicano movement of the 1960s. The two of them took a trip to Las Vegas as Hunter was hired to cover a moto race known as the Mint 400. the reason that Hunter took this job is that because at the time, in early 1971, he was also working on an article with Acosta about the death of journalist Ruben Salazar. And while writing this article, the atmosphere of the racial tension in Los Angeles proved too difficult for Hunter and Acosta to properly focus, so they took the trip to Vegas in March of 1971 to cover the mid 400. It was then a number of weeks later that both Hunter and Acosta returned to Las Vegas to cover a drug enforcement conference and to gather more narrative for what would later grow into the Fear and Loathing novel. So when you watch the movie, in the movie, the mid 400 race was a real race, and the second part of the movie where Raul and Dr. Gonzo are in the hotel, first with the girl Lucy, and then during that insane beyond like depraved drug trip that completely destroys the room, they were there to cover a drug enforcement conference. So both of those were very real. I actually have the book with me in my hand right now. I don't have the original. The cover of the book is actually the movie poster for the book. So this is a reprint of the book after the film was premiered. But the book, like reading the book, there's so much more within the book than what's within the movie, which is natural for pretty much every movie that has been adapted from a book. But basically the book follows like pretty much the exact path of the movie, just with a lot more different stuff thrown in. And one of my favorite parts of the book is the beyond incredible illustrations throughout the book, which are all drawn by an amazing artist by the name of Ralph Steadman. And all the photos that Ralph does, I believe Hunter's work with Ralph is Ralph's most well-known work. But just basically every illustration within this book just, I guess, gives you an idea of what people look like to those who are on insane amounts of psychedelics. I've only taken one psychedelic in my life. I've only taken shrooms once when I was 18. I'm 30 years old now. I would truly enjoy trying. I do really want to try acid at some point. I would love to do shrooms again. But, the modern culture of, like, there's so many people, like, just microdosing on shrooms all the time. And, like, just doing shrooms, like, so casually. I just feel like to me that's got to be, like, the same as, people in the 60s and the 70s who just dropped acid, like, so many times. Like, that can't be good for your brain. Speaking of stuff that is good for your brain, God damn, I can't wait to go to the dispensary later this week once I get paid. Let's see. So, one of the big things throughout the movie is from literally start to finish, Raul Duke and Dr. Gonzo are just fucking tripping out on just an insane amount of drugs and a heavy amount of alcohol. But within the movie, Raul Duke has this cool briefcase that is just basically a drug addict's wet dream orgasm, like everything, like anything you can imagine is within that case. So he... God damn, I really am fucking stoned right now. I'm sorry, people. God damn, I've been smoking a lot of pot to get prepared for this today. Because I felt like I need to be as stoned as possible if I'm going to be talking about one of the greatest drug movies of all time. Oh, that's such a stupid idea. But, nothing I can do about it now. But within that briefcase, Dr. Raul Duke had, everything. In fact, you know what? I gotta look up the Fear and Loathing drug list. I should have written it down. All right, so this is one of the early lines in the movie where Dr. Gonzo and Raul Duke pull the car over on the highway on the way to Las Vegas, and they end up switching. Dr. Gonzo ends up driving, and Raul Duke rides in the passenger seat, and Raul goes to the back to the trunk to get some stuff out of his briefcase. And he says, "We had 2 bags of grass, 75 pellets of mescaline, 5 sheets of high-powered blotter acid, a salt shaker half full of cocaine, and a whole galaxy of multicolored uppers, downers, laughers, screamers. Also a quarter tequila, quarter rum, a case of beer, a pint of raw ether, and 24 amyls." God fucking damn, no one needs that much drugs. No one in their right fucking goddamn mind needs all of that. But to give you context to compare that from the book and the movie to the real life story, they did not have this briefcase full of drugs going into Las Vegas. They did not. Apparently, in real life, the amount of drugs that they used on both trips to Vegas was much, much, much less than it was in the movie. Their drinking that they do throughout both parts of both trips in the movie that is on par. They're drinking throughout, probably drinking in the car on the way, just tons of booze. And apparently we're just also just smoking a bunch of pot, and maybe like using some pills and maybe light psychedelics, but that's really it. It was mostly booze and weed, for both their trips. But in the context of the book, it is much more exciting to have this incredible array of drugs that, it's Las Vegas. Vegas is supposed to be Sin City. It's supposed to be like the city of fun, debauchery. It's a city fucking founded by the American Mafia, for God's sake. So what better way to enjoy the most fun times you can have in Vegas than have this briefcase full of every possible drug you could need? This right here, though, is the only drug I ever need. This movie actually is not the first adaptation, though, of the book. There was a movie that was partially adapted. It was partially adapted for the movie called Where the Buffalo Roam, starring Bill Murray. But this film is the true adaptation of the book. So, naturally, the idea for this movie had been in development for a very long time. People throughout Hollywood had always been interested in figuring out how to do this. There's it's one of many books that, it's literally one of many books that, spend decades and decades trying to eventually get made into a movie. Some do, some don't. But the idea for the movie began in the 1970s, and the two actors who originally were considered apparently for the role were Jack Nicholson and Marlon fucking Brando. Jack Nicholson as Raoul Duke and Marlon Brando as Dr. Gonzo. That would have been... I guess I can see Jack Nicholson playing Raoul Duke. He has that energy. He has that weirdness. I cannot see Marlon Brando playing Dr. Gonzo. I just can't. I literally cannot. Then again, he did make that weird movie with Val Kilmer, Diallo Dr. Moreau, which he ended up becoming the bassist for Dr. Mephisto on South Park. So maybe, who knows, maybe he would have been good. But later on, in later development, years later, Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi were considered for the role. That also naturally fell through when, sadly, John Belushi died. But thank God, like a lot of good movies, right place, right time, and the right time to make this was in the late 90s, and truly the only person that could play Raoul Duke was Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp actually, Hunter himself was convinced that only Johnny Depp was capable of portraying him. When it comes to Dr. Gonzo, Benicio del Toro was hired, and Benicio del Toro went through an extensive physical transformation. He's in the club. Benicio is part of the club of Hollywood actors who have gained a shit ton of weight simply for a role of a movie. Benicio gained apparently 45 pounds in 9 weeks. And apparently he did this by eating 16 donuts a day. Which to some people sounds like easy and fun, but that also sounds to me like it sounds somewhat delicious because donuts naturally are delicious and amazing. But 16 a day for 9 weeks, dude. I'm not even going to do the math, but that's hundreds of donuts right there. Hundreds. And 9 weeks is only like a little over 2 months. So you imagine for 2 months you're eating hundreds of donuts. You got to be sick of donuts by then. He also naturally did a lot of research on Acosta. Benicio del Toro is an extensive research method character kind of actor. And he did an amazing fucking job in the role. He really did. He also looked fucking disgusting. That big ass belly was sticking out so many times. It was so fucking funny. That was funny. Let's see. So for Johnny to prepare for the role of Raoul Duke, Johnny actually moved into Hunter S Thompson's home with him in Colorado and lived there for 4 months and became very good friend. I think he had already become friends with Hunter before this. So during this time, he extensively studied Hunter's mannerisms, his characteristics. There's a whole lot of similarities between the way Raoul Duke is portrayed within the movie and how Hunter is in real life. To a lot of people, when they watch this movie, you see Johnny Depp playing this, and you also will see a lot of similarities between this and one of his later, much more famous characters, Captain Jack Sparrow of Pirates of the Caribbean. So Johnny, for like the movie, was naturally hamming it up, act as an actor and making it a dramatic theatrical portrayal. But there's a lot of apparently similarities in the extensive eccentricity. I think I'm saying that right. I think I'm using that word right. Between that and Hunter in real life. Hold on one second. So a lot of clothes actually within the movie that Johnny wears for for the character of Raoul are actually clothes. There's a lot of those that were clothes that were real clothes owned by Hunter S Thompson, which to me, knowing that, makes it such a much more authentic portrayal. And apparently Hunter actually is the one who shaved Johnny Depp's head to match Hunter's own male pattern baldness. The red shark, the red car in the beginning of the movie that Raoul and Acosta are driving. They fly across the desert. That was actually that car actually belongs to Hunter also, which again makes that so much more cooler because he was just knowing that he was able to lend that to the movie. Let's see what else. So the filming for the movie took place in 1997. The highway scenes, namely in the beginning, were not shot in Nevada. They were actually shot out in the desert in Palmdale, which is like to the northeast of Los Angeles. For the parts that were filmed within Las Vegas, that was filmed during the summer of 1997. And part of, filming in Vegas can be very tough. Vegas, it's a stronghold kind of town, I guess, with its mafia kind of ties. I don't know why I said that. But Las Vegas can be notorious for its restrictive filming on some movies. The casino that the movies filmed in actually were really insisting that like the actors, when they were in the casino, actually gamble and not just be background actors just playing the parts, which is fucking stupid. Apparently all the casino scenes were filmed very early in the morning, between like 1 and 2 to like 6 in the morning. The Bazooko Circus is obviously based on Circus Circus in Las Vegas, but Circus Circus did not want its name associated with the movie, so it was changed to Bazooko Circus. The Mint Hotel was a real hotel on the Vegas Strip, but it had long since been closed and demolished, so naturally I don't think there was really any trouble using its name and likeness. The cinematography of the movie is the best part, is one of the coolest, if not the coolest part of the movie, because it is just literally meant to make you feel like you're tripping on drugs from start to finish, no matter what. It starts off with such a bang, like full 120 miles per hour right from the get-go, and ends on just such like a smooth, mellow, but still high kind of trip. The cinematographer for the movie, his name is Nicola Percorini. God damn it. I really hope I am saying that right. I'm probably not, but I'm trying. I really am. He's an Italian. He's Italiano. He's an Italian cinematographer. Other movies that he was cinematographer on were Rules of Engagement, Tideland, and Misunderstood. Let's see what else. So, there's just many different things like throughout the movie to like portray different effects of different drugs. Berconi said that they use a loose depth of field. Everything becomes non-defined when they used adrenochrome. The adrenochrome scene. Everything gets narrow and claustrophobic and moves closer with lenses, and stuff like that. To portray mescaline was simulated by having colors melt into each other, flares with no sources, plays on color temperatures. For amyl nitrates, the perception of lights gets very uneven. Light levels increase and decrease during shots. And for LSD, everything extremely wide. Hallucinogens via morphs, shapes, colors, sounds, etc. All of this can be found in a very interesting article brought to you by the great publication American Cinematographer. It was honestly really cool looking at this article in preparation for this podcast. Also, one of the amazing parts of this movie is the incredible supporting cast for the movie. Like I said, the main stars of the movie, obviously Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro, but there's so many different side characters throughout the movie, and a lot of them are portrayed by who are now really well-known actors. Some who are just minor actors before their bigger breaks. Some already well-known actors. But there's just a lot of really great people in this movie. The supporting cast consists of Tobey Maguire, Ellen Barkin, Christina Ricci, Gary Busey, Mark Harmon, Cameron Diaz, Craig Barreco, Flea, my bass playing hero from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Michael Jeter, Christopher Maloney, Harry Dean Stanton, Jeanette Goldstein, Troy Evans, Vern Troyer, Penn Jillette, Lorraine Newman, an actual voiceover from Golden Age Hollywood actress Debbie Reynolds, mother of Carrie Fisher, the great Princess Leia from Star Wars. And there was even a cameo from Hunter S. Thompson himself during the Matrix club scene in that when Raul was having a flashback to 1960s San Francisco. He's going through the club and he's like, I recall one night in a place called the Matrix. There I was. Mother of God. There I am. And the person he's staring at is actually Hunter S. Thompson. So if you go back and watch that scene, he is staring at the real Hunter S. Thompson in that scene. So that's really all I have to really say about this movie. I first saw this movie, I think, when I was 19. I just remember learning about it by reading a list of like great movies about drugs. And I've been to Las Vegas a couple times. Both times when I was in Vegas, I stayed at the Tropicana Hotel. I don't gamble. I'm not a gambler. Because I, one, don't have really any money to gamble with. And also, to me, just gambling is kind of silly. But I love the atmosphere of Vegas. The atmosphere of Vegas is so incredible and beautiful. And it's, the last time I was there, which was both times I've flown through Las Vegas a few times through the airport, but physically stayed in the city, both when I was moving to Los Angeles and when I was moving out of Los Angeles. And the time I stayed when I was moving out of Los Angeles 3 years ago, again, stayed at the Tropicana on the Strip. And that night, I just, got dressed in some nice clothes and went out and just explored, walked the Strip for a number of hours. And I remember just, I went and stopped at a cigar shop and bought nice little $10 cigar, and I went to the Bellagio. And I remember I just walked in, lit up the cigar because you're allowed to smoke on casino floor, on most casino floors in Vegas still, which is fucking awesome. And I just walked around the casino and just observed people gambling. And to me, that was so much more fun and interesting than sitting there actually gambling. Um, I, li- I've told this story to several people to several coworkers and friends. One table I saw, it was a card game. It was a card game, blackjack maybe, or I can't remember, but it was some sort of card game. And there was this very, very beautiful woman. She looked in her late 30s, and, she had a guy with her. He was pretty good looking, but just, she was obviously, like, so much fucking better looking. And they were both really dressed up and, seemed to be having a good time. And the woman had like a small pile of chips in front of her, and like I said, they're playing cards. Just how Vegas works, chips, all that stuff. So they're playing the game, and all like something happens, and the dealer takes the entire pile of chips that's in front of her and takes it all away. And now she has no chips in front of her. And she just starts crying like her life is over. Like she starts crying, screaming, and just like she wasn't yelling anything. She was just yelling and screaming and crying. And she got up from the table and just ran off, like really started running away. And she was like running into people, like bumping into people. And the man she was with went after her, and he looked devastated. Like, they both looked devastated. So what I'm pretty sure happened is, my guess is I would like to think they gambled their child's college money, thinking they're going to win, and they just now have to go home and tell their poor son or daughter, hey, guess what? Mommy and daddy drank a little too much in Vegas and thought it'd be a good idea to gamble that $200,000 that was set aside for you to go to college. So now you can still go to college, but now unfortunately you're going to have to take out loans from the government. Sorry, our bad. Don't take out student loans, people. It's very stupid, and it's all a scam. Alright, so that's really all I have to say about this movie. If you have never seen Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, I can't recommend it more. I highly recommend it. It's incredible. It's amazing. Even if you're not a person who's into drugs, I just highly recommend it for just a fun, interesting time watching a movie. Alright, thank you. I hope you all have a great time. And thank you for listening, if you've made it this far. And I will see you next time. Have a great evening, folks.